Welcome everyone to my 2025 Formula One predictions. Let's get into the Constructors Championship, starting off with 10th place. I've obviously got Sauber in 10th. I feel like that's kind of like the obvious thing to do. And I think Sauber last season were just so mid. They couldn't get points. The thing is, the competition is so high now. It's going to be such a tight season. I wouldn't even call them backmarkers anymore. They're just kind of midfield. You know, which teams are going to finish in the top 10? And if you mess up qualifying, if you mess up the race, what drivers are going to capitalize? And I feel like, unfortunately, Sauber's not going to be one of those teams. And I think Sauber is going to really struggle to get points this season. That doesn't mean I think Hulkenberg and Bortoleto are going to do bad. I feel like the best Sauber can place in the championship this year is 9th. In 9th, I have got Racing Bulls. Yeah, I think Racing Bulls are kind of going to come off of a similar season to last year where their car is going to be inconsistent. You know, some races they'll be on the edge of points and some races they'll be near the back of the grid. I think Racing Bulls ended the season quite badly last year. Yuki was at the start of the season getting solid points, you know, 8th, 9th, 10th place finishes, but then it kind of fell off. Also, in my opinion, I do think Hadjar is not on the same level as Liam Lawson and Daniel Ricciardo. I think Daniel Ricciardo had that experience to help develop the car and help the team up to a good level. And I think obviously Liam Lawson, I just rate higher than Isack Hadjar as a driver. So I think they have downgraded their driver lineup. They have always been that team that's kind of like brought an upgrade. They're good and then they fall off. They don't kind of stay in the same spot. But I do think Yuki is going to be able to nab some points for the team, hence why they'll finish ahead of Sauber. But I don't think it's going to be enough to finish ahead of the other teams who have, I think, a stronger lineup, a stronger starting point, and a stronger development with their car. And yeah, this is where they are in the standings, of course, ahead of Sauber. I think this is where it gets juicy now. And I have got Aston Martin in 8th. I was very torn. I initially started off my predictions with Aston Martin as best of the rest. And then I thought about it. Aston Martin has said they're all in on 2026. Why would they waste time? Why would they waste money on a season where ultimately they're not going to win the championship? Does Aston Martin care about maybe finishing in 5th, 6th, 7th in the championship, getting a little bit of extra money? Or would they rather put all that time, money, and development into next season? I still feel like Aston Martin is a solid team, especially with a driver like Fernando Alonso. But for me, it was testing that changed my mind. I try not to take too much from testing. Honestly, they had a really bad testing. They were probably one of the worst teams at testing. They were very underwhelming. They had problems as well. I think they're starting off on the back foot. I think they've shown in previous years they're really bad at developing. Do you remember, was it 2022? It was Seb. I think it was Seb. They just didn't develop the car. 2023, they didn't develop the car over the season. Last year, they didn't develop the car over the season. They're really bad at developing. And then the 5th reason is Stroll. I think Stroll last year, he's gone from this driver that's like, yeah, he's a paid driver. Yeah, I probably would prefer him not being in the sport, but he's okay, to kind of like, you don't care anymore. I'll be honest. If Alonso wasn't in this car, I'm putting them below Racing Bulls. I think Alonso will be the edge. In 7th, I have got Alpine. I think they are going to have the best of the rest / second best of the rest. So 5th or 6th best car this year. Last year, the end of the season, they were very, very solid. They're in a great spot. The problem is they've got Jack Doohan. And I don't think Jack Doohan is going to be a Logan Sargent or a Nicholas Latifi or a Mazepin. But I do think he's probably going to be one of the weakest rookies this year. And obviously, with the kind of him losing his seat looming, let's say it's 6 to 10 races, he gets dropped. All that goes to waste. Colapinto comes in. He then needs to adjust to the car. That's going to be points that Alpine are going to miss out on. And I think Doohan and Colapinto aren't going to be as good as Ocon this year. This year is so tight. The points are going to be even more hard to get. And I think it's going to be down to Gasly to carry this team. And I don't think he's going to be good enough to carry the team to beat Williams and Haas, who have obviously put above. So it's all down to Gasly. There we go. That's where they're sitting. In 6th, I've got Haas. Aston Martin, I looked at testing and I went, yeah, not feeling them. Gonna put them lower. Haas, I didn't take that into account. To be honest, I actually feel quite happy about Haas's testing, despite them being basically at the bottom of both race and qualifying pace. They proved to me that they went, look, our qualifying was good last year. Our problem is race pace. Let's improve the race pace. And they went out and all 3 days of testing and just race pace the whole time. But yeah, I think Haas have a good base to start on. At the end of last year, they were in that kind of like, we can fight for points kind of position. And Hulkenberg was consistently making Q3s. Again, I still think Alpine will have a better car than Haas, but what Haas have that Alpine don't is, I think, a solid, well-headed driver lineup. I do think Ocon might cause some problems for Bearman once Bearman starts kind of eking some points out of him, but I just feel really, really good about Haas. So there you go. There's the kind of grouping. In 5th, I've got Williams. I honestly thought that this was going to be a wild pick. Feels like everyone's kind of got that faith in Williams, and why shouldn't we? You know what I mean? Yes, obviously Williams had a bit of a rough year last year with development, but I think they were very limited demoted due to their money problems. They don't have money problems anymore because of Atlassian coming on board, hopefully. But also they don't have a driver, hopefully shunting the car fucking every single race. And I think some people will look at last year and be like, yeah, but they didn't develop. They finished second last year. But I think the reason they finished second last year is what's going to make them so good this year. They've got a better driver lineup. They've got a more experienced and a more solid Albon after a year of kind of low points. And they've got Carlos Sainz, who is just an amazing driver. He already looks so comfortable with that team. Every interview is like, I want to help bring this team to the top. I think it's very exciting. And I rate James Vowles very highly. And I think Williams and Haas are going to come down to when do they abandon 2025 to focus on 2026. We're moving on to the big four now. In fourth, I have got Mercedes. The top four is its own little bracket. But I think I feel the most confident about Mercedes fourth. I do feel a little bit like, oh, maybe testing. There's a lot of talk about, Ferrari being the fourth best team and Mercedes is actually in the fight. I don't see it personally. I think Mercedes have come off of a pretty rough few years. 2024, they found their feet, but Lewis still struggled with the car. I feel though that Mercedes is going to be better this year than last year. Lewis is obviously a great driver, but I don't think he suits these new regs. Mercedes was building that car around two different drivers and two different driving styles for so long that I feel like Merc now have this freedom to be like Russell, the driver who's qualifying well, they can build the car around him and move it in a good direction. And Antonelli can hopefully slot in and drive the car well. Whereas last year, it was pretty obvious. They had two drivers who had wanted different setups. I don't think they're going to be title contenders for the Constructors Championship, but I do think they're going to be fighting for wins. Similar to last year, Kimi is probably going to be the one that lets them down in the Constructors. Not because I think Kimi's a bad driver, but he is a rookie coming in. He's very young. There we go. That's how it's looking so far, guys. In third, I have Red Bull. I do have Red Bull. I think the way it's going, I think McLaren and Ferrari are going to be the favorites. And I think Red Bull and Mercedes are going to be the two teams who have one driver fighting for the drivers, or they're just trying their best to scrape the Constructors. Max will obviously help develop that car in the right direction for him. It's how will Liam adapt to that car? And I think Liam's going to adjust to it well. And that's what gives me confidence to put Red Bull above Mercedes. If I'm being honest, I do not see a world where they win the Constructors. I just don't see a world where Liam can get enough points with that driver lineup that McLaren have and even Ferrari have. That's what it's looking like so far. In second, for the 2025 championship, Ferrari. They've kind of taken their car in a brand new direction, which is concerning. New regs next year, and they've brought a whole new car, but that could also be good, and they just absolutely dominate. But very confident in Leclerc and even Lewis to be able to bring that car in the right direction. I think they will have the second best car. Yeah, and they've got a very solid driver lineup. This might be a hot take, but I think even if Ferrari have the best car, I still think they finish second in the Constructors because I think McLaren have a more solid, consistent driver lineup. Again, I really hope Lewis proves me wrong, but I think Lewis will be the one that costs them the Constructors Championship. But I do think Leclerc is going to be able to bring home enough points, and Lewis will be able to bring home enough points for them to secure P2 in the championship over Liam Lawson, who won't be able to do the same thing. So if I had to pick a team, obviously other than Red Bull and other than Liam to win the championship, I want Ferrari to win. I want Hamilton and Leclerc to win equally as much as each other. I want Leclerc to win because I think he deserves it. I think he's the second best driver on the grid right now. But I also think Lewis, the storyline, it's a fairy tale, right? Going to Ferrari, getting that 8th title with Ferrari, cementing yourself as the GOAT. This is the thing with predictions, right? Is some people will look at this and be like, you don't think Ferrari can win? I never said I don't think Ferrari can win. I just predict Ferrari will finish second. P1 in the Constructors Championship for 2025. I have got, obviously, McLaren with the ugliest photos of all time. McLaren, put out some good fucking photos, for fuck's sake. I think McLaren are favorites to win the Constructors this year. They won last year, and last year they had Red Bull start off the season very strong. This year, Red Bull won't start off the season as strong. They will be the strong ones. And if they can develop as good as they did last year, they'll win the Constructors pretty easily, in my opinion. The only way they won't win the Constructors is if Ferrari, with their completely changed car, just comes out and is dominant, or if McLaren continue their antics of poor strategy, not prioritizing a driver to a point where Monza happens. They are clearly the best car on the grid right now. If Lando finishes P1, I expect Piastri to finish P2, P3, whereas I don't know about the other drivers finishing 1 to 2 positions behind their teammate yet. And that's what gives me so much confidence about putting McLaren in P1 for the Constructors. Looking at my order, what do you guys think? The top 4 are going to be fighting for wins, fighting for podiums, fighting for the points in both championships. I think Williams, Haas, Alpine are in their bracket of we're going to have a good team. We've got a good driver lineup. We're going to try to get as many points as possible in this championship. I think Aston Martin and Racing Bulls are kind of in there like our car's going to be poo off the bat. Don't think we're going to bring upgrades. How many points can we scrape? And Sauber's kind of in there like, bro, we fucking suck. What are we doing? That's my top 10 locked and loaded for the year. We've spoken enough about Constructors. Let's get into drivers. In 20th, starting off, I've got Jack Doohan. I want to preface this by saying I don't think this is because of Jack Doohan's performance. I think this will be because I predict Jack Doohan will be dropped. I don't see a world where Jack Doohan will be be good enough to keep the seat. Not saying I wouldn't keep him in the seat. It's just Colapinto has clearly been signed on a 3-year deal. He's waiting in the wings. You've got Flavio Briatore, who is very, very, very strict. And I think no matter what Jack does, unless he starts beating Pierre out the gates, he will be dropped for Colapinto. And I think ultimately he will finish last in the championship. Yeah, I don't think he's going to get a point before he gets dropped. In 19th, I have got, unfortunately, Gabriel Bortoleto. Again, kind of like Jack Doohan, I don't think this is going to be based off of his own performance. I think this will be based off of the situation he's in. And his situation is he's at a poor team in Sauber. Similar to Bottas and Zhou in previous years, he won't be able to get any points. If he does, it'll be very, very minimal for a very, very small amount of races. I do think Bortoleto is going to have a better season than Isack Hadjar. Maybe a better season than what people expect in comparison to Nico Hulkenberg. But I just don't think he's going to get higher than 19th of the championship. In 18th, I have got Isack Hadjar. It's dictated by the car. If the car's good, I think he'll do okay. If the car's bad, he'll do bad. I do think Hadjar's at risk of being under pressure and crashing. You know, he's got the threat of Arvid Lindblad behind him. You know, he's a bit of a hothead, so we'll have to see how he improves over the season. The thing is, Hadjar will not only need to match Yuki, but beat him to be able to get those points, because there's, again, so minimal points up for grabs. Next up, 17th in the championship, Nico Hulkenberg. This sucks to say, man. This sucks to say, because, you know, Hulkenberg came off with a fire year in Haas, and now he's kind of gone backwards. I don't think Hulkenberg's here because of his skill, to be honest. I think he's higher than what he should be. For him to even be ahead of Hadjar, I mean, is a good spot, and I think he will finish ahead of Hadjar purely because of his skill and his experience. He'll be able to get as much points of that car as possible. You know, if the car's capable of getting a 14th place, he'll put it in 14th. In 16th, I have got Lance Stroll. As much as I think Stroll gets more hate than he deserves in terms of driver performance, I think this is obviously a combination of where his headspace is at, of not giving a fuck and not being a great driver right now. This is also very relative for the car. Some races they'll show up, specifically Fernando Alonso, and nab points, but Stroll, I don't know if he's capable of doing that. I wouldn't be surprised if this is Stroll's final year in the sport. Lawrence is throwing so much money at the team. Part of me is like, is that for Stroll or is that for Lawrence's own ego? And I'm starting to feel more and more like that's for Lawrence's own ego. In P15, I have got Yuki Tsunoda. I feel like we're to that point now in this predictions where it's like, how much can these drivers carry their car? And I think that's a prime thing for Yuki. Is last season, he was with a good car getting on the edge of points. Then once the car was bad, he was on the edge of points but not getting points. It's going to be even tougher with how close the grid is. And I think it's going to be very tough because I don't think Racing Bulls is really going to develop that car through the year. In P14, I have got Esteban Ocon. This is where we now get to the spicy point of the predictions. The Haas is in a spot where I think it's in a rough spot at the moment to start the season. In terms of Bearman, in my teammate head-to-head predictions, I have got Bearman beating Ocon. Ocon is kind of a mediocre driver at best. You know, he's had some good moments, don't get me wrong. I think when the Alpine was a rocket ship at the end of last season, yes, they did favor Gasly. I think he was disappointing in comparison to Pierre Gasly. You know, again, I don't think Ocon's going to be bad. I think he's still going to get points. A bit down to car, a bit down to Alonso being better, a bit down to his teammate beating him. I feel like Ocon will lose the head-to-head, but then pull off some massive results to get points over Bearman. Yeah, he could do. He could do. In P13, I have got Fernando Alonso. To be honest, I do think this might end up being higher than what he will end up achieving because of how bad that Aston Martin could be. If it's anything like it was in testing, Alonso will be finishing behind Ocon, will be finishing behind Yuki. But I just believe no matter what car Alonso has, he will push it to be the best. I do feel like Alonso's the type of driver where if he has the best car on the grid, he is top tier. When he has a bad car, he doesn't try as much or he tries risky stuff. But at the end of last season, everyone writ off Aston Martin, but Alonso was still getting P9s and P10s. And I feel the same thing will happen this season where, well, Ocon dicks around and Yuki dicks around and all these drivers kind of like fuck around and do bad strategies or fuck up. Alonso's just going to be solid there, stealing points away from each other. I don't think there's going to be much points up for grabs, but I think Alonso will be able to edge a few points out. And yeah, that's why I put him so much higher than Stroll. This is how it's looking so far. In P12, I have got, it is Ollie Bearman. It is Ollie Bearman. Yeah, again, I've got a lot of faith in Ollie Bearman. I think he is going to do well this season in the Haas. I think the Haas is going to be in a decent spot as well. I think Bearman, again, with the car he has, will be able to outscore Fernando Alonso. Not because he's a better driver, but because he'll do better in the Haas given the circumstances. Bearman is probably the rookie I'm most excited for this year other than Liam Lawson. I think they're both in this boat of like good heads. I don't mean it in that way. Good heads on them, good talent, and they've got that little bit of experience now coming into their first season. I think they'll do well. I have faith, man. I have faith. Look at him. He just looks ready, does he not? He just looks ready. In P11, I have got Alex Albon. If you watched the teammate head-to-head predictions video, you'll know that I have got Carlos Sainz beating Albon. But yeah, I think this is kind of a straightforward prediction. I think it'll be a good battle between Albon, Gasly, and Sainz for the best of the rest position. For me, it's just Sainz will do better. Gasly will have more opportunities than Alpine with a different team. Yeah, if Albon finishes P11, I'm not going to going to sit here and be like, mid-season, didn't make the top 10, not best of the rest. I think 11th for Albon would be great. But this is based off of where I think the Williams is going to be in the championship. All right, we're halfway through. How are we feeling? Let's move on to the top 10 now. In P10, I have got Pierre Gasly. I think he's coming off the back of a great end to last season. Some races, he's just going to show up. He's going to do really well. We saw Gasly at AlphaTauri. When he's locked in, he is fucking locked in. And when that Alpine was good, he was killing it. Who's going to be getting those 7, 8, 9, 10th points placing positions if a driver in the top 8 do bad? And I think Gasly's going to be one of those drivers. In P9, best of the rest, I have got the main man, Carlos Sainz. I'm confident about this. I think the Williams look good. And Sainz, I think he's not only in great form, but I think he's in a great position now, especially with no pressure, to prove himself in a midfield car. And yeah, I think he's going to consistently finish ahead of Gasly. I think Sainz is going to be what Alonso was in 2023 end of season, where it's just like P7, P8, P7, P8, P7, P8, P7, P8. This is how it's looking so far, guys. In P8, I have got the rookie, Kimi Antonelli. I'm so excited to see how Kimi Antonelli does this season. But with the information I've got at the moment, with the information we have on Mercedes, I feel like Antonelli will be the one that lets down Mercedes in the constructors in terms of beating Red Bull. I just think he'll be the worst of the best in terms of points. I think Antonelli will win a race this season. I think Merc will be like last season, maybe even better now with the direction that they're able to take the team without Lewis Hamilton's driving style. And I think Antonelli will be able to get a win at some point, or at least put it this way, he'll be able to fight for a win. Who do you think I've got in P7? Oh, this is a big one. In P7, I have got Lawson. You guys got pranked. Can you imagine? Yeah, this is gonna be a great battle between Kimi and Liam this season. You know, both rookies. Liam obviously with more experience. Kimi Antonelli with a lot more hype behind him. Liam obviously got a lot to prove to the haters. For me, I think the Red Bull is going to be slightly better than the Merc out the gates. If you're someone who thinks that Red Bull second seat is cursed, Liam's going to be like Checo, then fair enough. I understand why you'd put Liam below Kimi. But I think Liam is going to suit this Red Bull, at least for the start of the season, like first half of the season, like most drivers have done in that Red Bull. And I think Liam has the experience to beat a young, inexperienced Kimi Antonelli, who, again, I think will have his problems. It's going to be a great fight. Before we get to the top 6, I just want to preface, this season, I don't think you're stupid putting one of 3 drivers, even one of 4 drivers as your championship winner. I think there's a few drivers who maybe, if given the car, could win the championship. And I think the top 8 are all interchangeable, depending on who comes out the gate strong and who develops and gives up on development. In P6, I have got Lewis Hamilton. If you've been watching my streams over the last couple weeks, if you watch my teammate head-to-head predictions, if you watch my constructor predictions, you'll know my prediction for Lewis Hamilton is he will be more comfortable at Ferrari than he was at Mercedes, but he's coming in to a new car, a new engine, a new team, a new environment, up against, in my opinion, the second most talented driver on the grid, who's in his home stomping turf in his 7th season at the team. He's got a lot to prove. Do I hope Lewis Hamilton proves me wrong? Absolutely. I would rather sit here and be like, yes, Lewis, well done. You won the race. You won the championship. I'm so fucking happy, and be wrong, than sit here and be like, guys, I was right about Lewis. He did not blow me out of the water at Ferrari. I just think in terms of the championship story for the 2025 season, in terms of where the cars are, I think Lewis Hamilton won't be beating Leclerc, won't be beating Max Verstappen, won't be beating Lando Norris, and will be in contention with Oscar Piastri and George Russell for those points positions. And I think at the end of the day, Leclerc will take too many points away from him. I think it will take him too long to get up to speed. And I just don't think Lewis is comfortable in this regulation of cars. 2026, whole different story. It's controversial because it's so exciting, man. It's so exciting. And top 6, top 8, there is no clear order. And that's what's so fucking exciting about this season. But I'm a facts person, and factually speaking, Lewis finished behind George Russell. In P5, I have got George Russell. I think this is very fair for Russell. I don't want to overhype Russell and be like, sleeper build, you know, like he's gonna fucking cook. He's gonna beat Piastri. He's gonna beat, you know, the top 3. He's gonna do well. But I also don't want to underrate Russell. You know, last season he beat Lewis in the same car. I think Russell can now be at his own team, be the main driver, have the car fully built around him, whilst Lewis is kind of stuck being the second driver at Ferrari. And I think that's where Russell's going to excel. And the races where it's not strong, he'll still put up a fight against Lewis to be able to secure P5 in the championship. I think Russell's very underrated for how good he is. In P4, I have got Oscar Piastri. I think Oscar's in a very, very, very similar position to last year, where he's going to be at a team that is fighting for the Constructors Championship, while he could be in a position to fight for the Drivers' Championship. But I think Lando is and should be the main driver at the team who will be fighting for the Drivers' title. And Oscar proved last season, his quality pace is good, but not as good as Lando. The thing that I love about Piastri, though, is every race, every season, he's gotten better and better and better. And I think this season, he will be in contention for more races. What we saw in Baku last year, I think he'll have more races like that, where we end the race going, fuck me, what a race, holy shit. But I think over the course of a 24 race season, Lando will get more points, will finish ahead of him more, and ultimately take points away from him, and he'll finish in fourth. I do think he'll be in the championship fight. And what I mean by that, there will be races where he'll be such a significant part of, fuck, he just took 7 points away from Max, or he took 7 points away from Charles. The top three. I don't think it matters who you pick between Lando, Max, and Leclerc. No matter who you pick, it's a valid prediction. I think if you pick Piastri, if you pick Russell, if you pick Hamilton, I think that's more hope than a valid prediction. It depends on who you think is the better driver, how you think each team's going to do over the course of the season, when they're going to give up on development. In third place in the 2025 championship, I have got Lando Norris. Now, I've got Lando Norris in P3, even though I think they're going to win the Constructors' Championship, because I think McLaren will have two drivers fighting at the front of the grid, getting points, but they're going to steal points away from each other. Dude, I can't focus on talking when chats like that. McLaren haven't proved to me last season and so far this season in interviews that they are ready to fully commit to Lando, fully commit to him being the driver who wins the championship this season, which proves to me that some races Lando will win, some races Piastri will win. And over the course of the season, that is going to allow Leclerc in a fast Ferrari and a weaker teammate in Lewis Hamilton, and Max Verstappen in a what should be a decently competitive car after solving their issues, and a weak teammate to get the max amount of points when their car is the best. Now, a lot of people are forgetting, oh, but McLaren will have the fastest car. But they had the fastest car last season. From Imola to the end of the season, McLaren had majority the fastest car. But yet Lando and Max still got the same amount of points in the season. And Leclerc was so close to beating Lando in the championship. And that's why for me, yes, McLaren will probably have a faster car than last year. Red Bull won't have the issues they had last year. They'll also hopefully have Liam in more of the fight. Listening to Lando's interview, I have faith in Lando to win the championship. I don't have faith in McLaren winning the Drivers' Championship. Does that make sense? As much as I do my predictions based off of factualness, you also got to go off of feeling. And again, my feeling is that McLaren aren't ready to prioritize Norris. In comparison to Leclerc and Max is a flawless driver, and Leclerc is almost flawless now. Yes, he does make that big error every now and again. Lando, he had those bottled race starts for so many races. He had a few qualifyings where he fucked up. Lando's a top tier driver, but I think just like Leclerc had, just like Max had in his early days, I still think Lando's in that kind of transitional phase of like becoming a flawless driver. I think he's going to be a lot better this year than last year. I still think the number one driver is going to cost him points in the championship. Woo! Here we go. Are we ready for 2025 in P2 and P1? If I had to bet my house on who I think wins the championship, given where I think the car will be, and given the experience and what they've proven to me over the years, if I had to bet my house on it, I have got Charles Leclerc in P2 and Max Verstappen in P1. That's what we got. That's what we got this year. I'm locking it in. I'm putting my faith in Max once again. All right, going back to Leclerc. Charles Leclerc is the second best driver on the grid at the moment. I think Ferrari are going to have a good year. Leclerc will finish second in the championship because they'll have the car. I don't think Leclerc will have as much of a threat from Lewis where he'll have points taken off of him. I think Ferrari's inconsistency over the season will not allow him to win the championship. But I think Leclerc's skill level, he'll go toe-to-toe and outperform Lando in races where the cars are even. I think what will ultimately cost Leclerc the championship is just Max having that edge. He's had the edge since 2020 over all these drivers. Merc win, Ferrari win, Red Bull win, McLaren win, McLaren win, Ferrari win, Red Bull win, Ferrari win, McLaren win. That's the way I see the season going. And if that happens, I think Max will edge the most amount of points out of every driver over the course of the season. It's going to be fucking tight. I reckon it will come down to the wire. That's it. That's all I got to say, right? If I had to bet my house on it, Max has shown last year, Max showed that in the not best car for most of the season, second, third, fourth at some races, he was still able to match points with Lando. What's stopping him from doing it again this season with a car that has its problems solved? I think so many people are underestimating that Red Bull and thinking it's complete dog shit. I believe that they're going to fix those issues. I'm not just doing that because I'm a fan. Yes, maybe there's a little bit of I want to back my driver. Yeah, 100%. But I can't get a bet against Max. Rather than being stupid and sitting here and saying I'm biased or I'm dumb, no one's wrong. The season hasn't fucking happened yet. And if you think I'm stupid for sitting here and putting the World Drivers Champion of the last 4 years as the champion, then you're fucking stupid. Sorry, I had to let it out. Talk about the list as a whole, though. I think the top 3 are interchangeable. Piastri, Russell, Hamilton are your outsiders who will win races. Don't think they're going to be in the Drivers' Championship fight, but they'll be integral parts to either helping their teammate win the Drivers' Championship and to helping their team win the Constructors' Championship. I think Liam and Antonelli will be solid. They'll get podiums. They might have a chance at winning a race, but they'll be the detriment to their team winning the Constructors' Championship. I think Sainz and Gasly are going to be best of the rest. I think Bearman will be the shining rookie of the grid. I think Aston Martin are going to struggle with their car, and I think Alonso can only carry it so far. I think Sauber are going to be the worst team on the grid. I think Hadjar's is going to struggle as a rookie. I think Doohan's going to get dropped. Guys, that is it for the predictions. We'll see how the season plays out. Thank you guys all for watching. Really do appreciate it. That was solid. I really enjoyed that.